Welcome to another Dragonlance Hangout. My name is Adam, and I'm being joined once again by friend of the show, Mike Perry. How you doing, man?
Great, great. Glad to be here. Hello, everybody.
It's wonderful to have you back. This has been like a year in the making. We've been, in talks behind the scenes, just sort of keeping up with each other and seeing what's going on and stuff. But finally, we get an opportunity to talk about some of the incredible work that you've been putting out, and I'm excited to showcase it here to the audience. Before we dive into that, I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons and invite all of you out there to consider becoming a member or a patron. You can even pick up Dragonlance Media by using my affiliate links. Those links are in the description below. I have also included in the show notes a link to Mike Perry's incredible online presence. So check out that link tree, look at all his projects, and there's some stuff we're going to talk about at the end that can help you in your virtual tabletops as well. So a little tease there when we get to it. But Mike, it's been a while. What have you been up to?
I've been busy. I've been really busy. I'm like, where do I begin? I've just been working on Dragonlance characters. I mean, you and I have talked about it, and I think after our last chat, there was some talk about doing some of the other High Lords and some of the other characters,
Right.
and I got really pumped. I really wanted to work on characters that no one had seen before. So, like characters like Boo Boo, characters like Seston, characters like Lord Ariakis. Some of them had a little bit of work on them, but I started on one, and then it just snowballed. And then I did a couple of Legends characters,
Oh,
and
that's
then
awesome.
some guys would suggest online, "Hey, do this." What really I think got me going was a fella contacted me who's a real major Dragonlance fan. His name's Dave, and he just started asking me about the work I've been doing after he saw our chats on your channel.
Right.
And he's like, "Why don't you have a Twitter page?" And he started posting some of my work on his Twitter. And a lot of the work, I don't know if viral, but you get 40,000 views on some of this
That's
work. And all
awesome.
of a sudden, there's people who are interested in the work that I've been doing all this time, that you and I have been doing. And I thought, well, hey, I should have a Twitter channel too. I mean, Twitter page. I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to social media, guys.
I'm with
I
you.
don't. Yeah, I'm old school. So I set up a Twitter account, got all that going, and I've since really enjoyed it. I've been posting a lot of my work, my progress. I've had a lot of interaction with other Dragonlance fans, and like, man, there are some really intense Dragonlance fans, like people who really know their stuff, and people from all over the world, and they're jumping in, asking questions, doing this, and saying, well, you should have done this or change that, and I just love it. It's
Yeah.
really inspired me, and it's really motivated me to keep working and keep making more stuff. So, you know, uh,
It's
that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I want to talk about the fan thing really quick because it's like a double-edged sword. We've
Mhm.
lived almost entirely within our own minds about this world, right? Like we all experience it as we're reading it or as we're playing the games, and we imagine it being one certain way. We read it and we pronounce it in a certain way, and we feel this sense of ownership over our image of what Dragonlance is. And so then, when like you creating art or me creating this channel and sort of just talking about it in our own ways or presenting it in our own ways, other people are saying like, whoa, that's not right. That's not how I
Mm.
imagined
Mhm.
it. Like
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
things need to be changed or this thing needs to be this way. And what I find is so amazing is the sense of confidence that everyone
Mhm.
has that their view of everything is the right way for it, when even the
Mhm.
game designers couldn't agree some of the time on
Mhm.
like how characters should be portrayed versus how they're actually like events that happen with each characters, and sometimes they're completely stripped away from what someone else already said, and they totally ignore what other people have done and they present them in their own ways. So it's
Mhm.
really funny to me, like sort of reflecting on the authors of the products and the game designers themselves couldn't agree on what Dragonlance was as one single unit. And yet we as fans individually believe that we have our pulse on what Dragonlance actually is.
I think it's great though. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I like that just people are talking about it. Think the
Mm-hmm.
Dragonlance 40 years old and we're still talking about it, you know.
Yeah.
And uh, I like in some ways so this has been on my mind lately. My wife asked me, "Why don't you draw Lord of the Rings things?" And I love Lord of the Rings, and I've tried here and there, but it's defined. There's been like
Right.
well, the books are what? The Hobbit was 1930s. It was originally
It's been a
published. So
few
let's say
years.
100 years.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of material put out, right? And since the movies came out, it's really defined Lord of the
Right.
Rings in a way. I'm not sure I like it. Like when I think of Sting, I automatically think of the Peter Jackson version,
Right.
right? Or maybe I'll go back to the Rankin Bass cartoon. That's the
Yes.
first time I saw Sting, right? But it has such an intense. It's planted a seed in my mind about what this should look like.
Mm.
And Dragonlance, besides the artwork that was on the covers and from the game supplemental materials, we don't have that mega media sort of definition of what Dragonlance is. And I like that because it gives us more of a sandbox to play in. And
Yeah.
you're not on rails as a fan. Like you can go through it and be like, well, I think Sylvara should look like this person, or I don't know about that, or
Mm.
you know, and that's how it should be. This is our imagination.
Yeah.
These characters exist in our imagination, and I love that people are passionate about it. That they even want to talk about it and bicker about it. And you're saying this guy's name wrong, or I
Right.
think
Right.
this, or I it's been Dragonlance. You and I've had some wonderful conversations, but I don't know a lot of people in my circle who've even read a Dragonlance book, right?
Right.
So when you go online and you talk to people who are passionate in the community, you learn things, and they this is like I learn things from them, and they tell me things like recently I posted an image of Sturm, and he said it looks good, but the breastplate's too tight, he can't breathe in it. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I should
Right.
do that. I can't believe I missed that. And um, that is the benefit of that. So
Mm.
I don't know if it's quite, but it's just nice that there's a fandom and we want to talk about it. And if people disagree, as long as we disagree respectfully, it's great.
Right. Absolutely. I think
Mhm.
that's definitely the takeaway that I have. Every interaction I have with sort of comments on this channel specifically, it's
Mhm.
always I didn't like this. I didn't see it this way. And as long as
Mhm.
it's coming from a place of, oh, well, this is my personal experience, then I'm 100% okay with it. What I really can't stand
Mhm.
is when people are just like attacking you for having a perspective or a view that differs
Right.
from theirs. Like you can
Right.
say, this is what Raceland was like to me. And you're like, okay, well, this is what the authors had said. And so this is why I'm crafting the video in this way. It's nice that,
Mhm.
you take ownership over him in your own life and you're sort of making a connection like that. That's great. But here's what,
Mhm.
these other people say as well. And whenever I respond in that way, it's really from an intention of, um, one, explaining why I say the things I say or where I come from, basically, what I'm referencing. And then two, to accept that, they have a perspective on this character or event or whatever it is. And it's okay for them to have that perspective. But what you can't do is say, oh, you're wrong. That's what bothers me is when people say, no, you're wrong. This is how it is. And you're like, okay, I mean, that's your interpretation, bro.
Yeah. Well, nobody likes to be gate kept, and
Right.
this is our fantasy. This is our entertainment, right? And I have this T-shirt that I don't. Anyways, this T-shirt, and my buddy gave me this great quote, and I made it in a T-shirt. It says, "You're not properly enjoying that thing you enjoy," and I wear it to conventions because fandom's always like there's always someone who's going to tell you you're not enjoying that thing you enjoy properly, and
Mm,
I think it's a joke. Like, well, what can you? You just laugh it off. I
yeah.
mean, people people come with all kinds of ideas, and everyone's got their own opinion, and that's great, but
Mm,
as long as you're not causing any harm or being a jerk,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't tell people how to think. That makes me feel bad, like
Yeah.
feel gross. Like, it's just that's not cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying, but there's people who they have very strong opinions and they're not afraid to voice them.
Mm,
And as long as it's constructive criticism or respectful, I think it's
yeah.
great. I love it. And it's sometimes people will preface their opinion with like an apology, like I'm sorry I
Right.
said this, but I really don't agree with that. I'm like, no, you don't have to apologize. Like,
Mm,
thanks. You only have so many characters you can make in your Twitter posts, so just max it out.
yeah,
Let's see
for
what
sure.
you got. Just tell me what you got to say. And yeah, I just love talking to Dragonlance. It's just great. So.
I love that. And
Mhm,
sharing even opposed opinions is something that has
mhm,
become so difficult, if not like just refused to happen, or attacked for having
mhm,
done it in nowadays in modern
mhm,
parlance online.
mhm,
I really open up saying, look, this is my perspective. If yours differs, that's great. Share your
mhm,
thoughts. What I
mhm,
always hate is the shutting people down because they say something I don't agree with, or a viewpoint that I disagree with. No, no, no. Look, we're human beings. Every one of us
mhm,
has assholes and elbows, and we all have opinions. So let's just
mhm, mhm.
share those opinions and accept, even if you disagree, accept that that is their opinion, and you don't have to agree with it. That's okay, but you can still hear it. Like,
Do you have an unpopular opinion? Like, do you have something that's got given you a lot of flack?
um, I don't know.
Minotaurs have
In
flat
sort
feet
of
instead of
like,
hooves.
I don't know if that's. I mean, that's definitely a sort of a divisive point depending on
Mhm,
who's talking. For me, it's always going to
mhm.
be, ooh, I don't know now. Now that I think about it, I kind of like hooves, but I also like the idea of boots.
Hooves look really cool,
Yeah.
but I just reread Kaz the Minotaur and the
Mm,
Legend of Huma just this little while ago, and Kaz is always riding a horse, and
yeah.
I'm thinking, how could he ride a horse with hooves? Like it wouldn't work in the stirrups. I guess he could ride without stirrups, but like these are the things that go through my mind as a conceptual artist. Like, what are the nuts and bolts of this? How does this work?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a design aesthetic, and like say your first version, I was looking because I'm thinking about doing some Minotaurs now for the Dragonlance, and I was looking at the Brahm paintings. So Brahm does this wicked. I don't know if you remember. It's
He's
I think the
awesome.
January 1991 cover of this gray Minotaur with an axe. It's
Yeah.
just awesome, right? And he looks like a cowman and I think he's just got flat feet, regular feet. And I was looking through the Talatus source book, and it's got lots of really interesting, like Roman styled minotaurs, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of what they look like in Talatus, and they all kind of look like they don't look like bulls. They look kind of like cows, but they look like hunched over men in robes. Like it's just weird. It doesn't really sell the minotaur look to me. Like I think of them as beefy, like they're supposed to be what 9 feet tall or 7 feet tall. Like they're
Yeah, they're
huge,
huge.
right?
Yeah.
And they're amazing fighters and all about like their culture is this way and that way. So I think the bestial angle really sells it to me. Like
Hmm.
I like that. I like that it pushes the whole thing. But I'm sure there's other folks who disagree, and everyone's got their own opinion on it.
Yeah.
But maybe it starts fights. I don't know. There's
Yeah. I don't know.
someone's Chuck Knuckles
I
because of
always think
that.
it's kind of fun. I mean, that's one of those points where, depending on the artist and depending on the author, they have feet or they have hooves. And so it's
Mhm,
totally
mhm,
just up to personal interpretation for your own game or for your own artwork, or whatever. And I like that
mhm,
aspect of it a lot. Is the
mhm.
sound cutting out for anyone else? Bromas, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry if it is. It's not for me, but
No, the
I'm on
sound
a
looks
different
good.
setting.
My video looks a little laggy, but I'm not sure if
Okay.
there's anything I can do about that.
Saka-san, thanks for tuning in live. Chris, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Engine Joe. Goldmoon, what's up? And let's see who else. Corey, thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions about Dragonlance or about Mike's art or anything else throughout the course of this, please put it up there. I will do my best, whether on Twitch or on YouTube, to look at it. I'm looking at both chats right now, and I'll do my best to interface a question on your behalf if I see it. Just putting it out there. But we do have. I mean, we're talking about art and characters, and we have a lot of art of yours to present. Some of them that I've never seen before, and so I'm sure some of the audience hasn't either. Do you want to get to that part? Should we
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
kick it over? So Caraman here is looking pretty dope. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause this so I can try to. Oh boy, how am I going to do this? I'm going to try to pause it so I can flip through it myself. Caraman looks awesome, and I haven't seen Caraman with a spear before, so I kind of like that too.
Does anybody? I threw an Easter egg with that spear. If anyone catches it, let's see if you catch it. But yeah, so if you read through the game in the game materials, he actually has a spear. He's kind of described as a walking armory.
Yeah.
So he's got a spear and a dagger and a sword and everything else. And you know, I like that idea that he has a spear. And every time you see him in illustration, he's always just got a sword.
Mhm.
But him and we've talked about this before, but him and Sturm are the tanks of the party. They're
For
the big
sure.
fighters, and they need to have weapons that make them stand apart, that make them look a little different. And I think it's kind of interesting. Rassilon has his staff polearm, Carmen has his spear. Sort of a, I like that how they play off one another. The visual of the two of them, I think that's
Right.
kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, it's definitely that sort of the Legends cover art with the spear and
Mhm.
the staff of Magius. I like the idea from like a tactical aspect as well, like a practical application. Because if you're a fighter, your job is to keep the wizards safe. So you need to keep the
Mhm.
enemies at a
Mhm.
distance at most as much as possible. And a spear does just that. Swords
Well, that's
usually
one
you're
thing.
in melee and stuff. So
Yeah, like that's one thing. I'm a sword nerd, so I like to fence,
oh,
and
nice.
distant. It's all about distance, right? And the spear is the best weapon. It gives you so much distance. It has a very this one in particular has a long edge. I mean, it's a really. I mean, there's a reason why it's such a effective common weapon throughout history. I mean,
For
they
sure.
still have on rifles today. They still have bayonet lugs, so you can make your so your rifle into a spear, right?
Yeah.
It's a really useful tool, and I don't think fantasy gives it enough. It doesn't get we don't see it enough in fantasy,
Yeah.
right? I probably when you think I think partly because you're Dungeons and Dragons, you're in a dungeon. Using a spear in a dungeon is not as easy and not as cool,
Yeah.
but it's such a cool weapon. I don't, and I'm also trying to go for new takes on things, different angles, refresh it a bit.
Yeah.
Let's see Carmen in a way we haven't seen him before. So in this, like I left out his white tabard sort of robe. You see it like if you look on
Hmm.
the Chronicles covers, he's got a white uh, cloth. I always forget the name of this
Yeah. I think
garment.
it's
And in
halberd or something.
medieval history, yeah, medieval people have different names for it. There's like tabard or
Right.
his surcoat or whatever. But
Circo's probably the one I
I
think
left
of.
it out because I went with has ringmail. That's his armor in the game, and you wouldn't see it if it was covered up in this garment. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I kind of regret it because rendering all those rings and leather was a nightmare. It was so much work. It's like all those little rivets and all the oh my god, making sure everything's just so, and it was
Hmm.
just a nightmare. But I think it turned out.
No, it looks great. And I've never seen this one. Chrysania, it
Mhm.
looks awesome. I really
Thank you.
love
Yeah.
the layering of fabrics. I'm one of those geeks that pays attention to the clothing in stuff like House of Dragons or Game of Thrones
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Star
Hmm.
Wars and stuff like that. I really think that the costume designers are a huge part of why we buy into worlds. And I think the costume on this one is just great. I also like there's a
Yeah, I
little bit
have
of a
the
tartan to her belt as well.
Yeah, well, Dragonlance is Celtic. Like, there's
Yeah,
a lot of Celtic themes, right? Like, even the logo, everything else. There's Celtic themes
for
throughout
sure.
Dragonlance. It's understated. People just, it's not used enough. And instead of going against, go with it. Like, let's lean into it. Let's throw some more Celtic things. Let's have a tartan. Let's show some of those motifs. And I like it. I think it adds some nice visual uh, variety
Hmm.
to the Dragonlance world and gives it a little bit of an authenticity that it doesn't look just like generic fantasy.
Yeah.
And you know, like I'm a big fan of costumes as well. So uh, I've watched all the DVD extended edition
For
like
sure.
featurettes about costume making, and I've got a library of books like Dressing the Galaxy, all the Star
Oh,
Wars
cool.
costumes for the different series. Like I'm a nerd, right? So I got all this good stuff, and I really think I didn't think about it at first, but if you remember Saruman's costume in Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
when you watch in the DVD, uh, they break down how how much you never see it on camera, but there's so much embroidery and texture to every layer of his costume,
Yeah.
and they even wear it out to make it look like he's turning to evil, and you never notice it, but it really helps sell the overall look and vibe for the character. And so when you think of a character like her, she's Elliston's number two. She comes from like one of the wealthiest families in Palanthas. She's sort of this very interesting and powerful character, right? And
Hmm.
but we only ever see her in sort of like a frock or some sort of Roman garb where you just see her like a toga,
Yeah.
right? Arms bare. And that I don't think that's very fitting for her station. Like think about it. She is a spiritual leader. Like anywhere in our world, anyone who is like the number two to the Pope. I don't
Right.
think he walks around in a bathrobe. You if you look at the garments of religious leaders, they're all fairly, even if they're not ornate,
Yep.
there's still a lot of quality fabrics. There's a lot of textures. There's a reason for every single button.
Yep.
And I kind of wanted to maybe show a bit of that with her. And, I don't know
Well,
if
I
we
like it
captured.
because, like, first of all, the pristine white you have to have because it's supposed to be that innocence and purity of spirit that she sort of projects. But she also ends up lusting after Raceland, and so I think the hints of red, especially on the hem, I think is a great subtle. Not only does it play off rosy cheeks and lips, which I always imagined her as well, but it plays off the passion that is just on the edge of her character, and it's just, I
Oh,
think it fits
great.
perfectly. It looks so
Great.
good.
I hadn't thought of that, but I'll just say I did now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yes,
AP Martini,
it
thanks for
seems like
tuning
it worked
in.
out.
Yeah, so I think it just looks beautiful. Now, this is interesting. I've never
Mhm.
seen. First of all, in my mind, whenever I see Dalamar, it's always like that image. I think it was Elmore up in the Tower of High Sorcery in Legends when
Mhm.
he and Kitiara are fighting. So that's the version of
Okay.
Dalamar I think of. This is such a different take on Dalamar. I kind of like it. There's this confidence about him. There's like a Japanese inspired cut to the shirt, like the wrap of his
Mhm.
outfit, which you could easily fold into like the Towers of High Sorcery and stuff like that. I think this is a very interesting take on Dalamar. Can you talk a little bit about the direction you were going?
Well, so when we see him, he's an apprentice,
Hmm.
but he's always, when we think of him from the tales where he gets that adventure with Palin and Carmen, and Palin gets the staff, the staff of Magius, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
And we think about the battle, like you said, with Kitiara, where he's at the height of his power. He's got all his magic, whatever. But he's still just Raslin's apprentice. He's always the apprentice to Raslin. And this is kind of how we meet him and how he is. I'm thinking for in Legends for the majority of the time, especially throughout all of his interactions with Raslin, he is just the apprentice, and he should look like one. He shouldn't have all the doodads and gadgets. He should have his spell books. He's studying diligently, or else his master will, give him a hard time. He doesn't have
Hmm.
decoration. He's very. I mean, he chose the most dangerous apprenticeship in the world because he's so dedicated to it, right? So I kind of wanted to show that sort of Spartan look to him, but still some of those elvish hints with some of the decorations on his
Yeah.
robes, but simple robes. And I don't imagine the way I've come to realize with Dragonlance and the way they depict the black robes, like they're not all these conniving evil wizards,
Wow.
in the cave with, yeah, they're not those types of characters, right?
True.
They really kind of present them more as neutral evil characters in the
Yes.
sense that they're all about their own magic, and they're all just incredibly narcissistic and selfish, but they're incredibly passionate and dedicated to their magic
Hmm.
instead of the Dark Queen, instead of the cause of evil. And so I didn't want to show them as just all black. Like there's something more to it. There's lots of gray in there. There's a little
Yeah.
bit of, and black on black is just, it flattens you out. I mean, you can't, graphic design, it's just
Yep.
black on black. It just flattens everything out. It just looks like a silhouette. So
Yeah.
we had to throw some visual interest to make him look more
Well, I really do like the
interesting.
embroidery on the sleeves. I think that looks really, really nice. And it's just a
Mhm.
delicate touch that I could very easily see the Japanese wrap style clothing with elvish culture that sort
Mhm.
of like meshes really well with me in my head. So I think
Mhm.
that's really nice. And the fact that he's an apprentice to the most powerful archmage in the world, he couldn't go in there looking like Kiss.
Mhm.
I don't think
Mhm.
Raceland would
Mhm.
stand for that. So
No,
he
no,
probably
no.
demands a certain amount of just humility and humbleness in appearance, because that's not
Well,
important. The magic is important.
one line that kept sticking in my head is Rassilon, his robes are completely black. There's no, if you recall from the earlier illustrations, he has stitching in the cuffs, magical protection spells woven into the garment, right? But then he gets to a point in his power where he doesn't rely on anything. He doesn't have like a ring of protection. He doesn't have any amulets. He scoffs at all that as
Hmm.
weakness, right? So I think to me, it sort of you would think his apprentice would want to emulate that. He would want to prove to his master, I don't need trinkets to be anything else. He has all those things and he uses them, but only when Raslin's not around, and to help him deal with people or Raslin even, because in the end he had all of his. I like how they describe that table at the end. It's all laid out, all of his spells, his spell components, his ring of healing, everything. Like he's as loaded up, ready to bear as he'll ever be, just hoping to stop Raslin. I think that's kind of cool.
There's a question here from Sake Sam. What tools do you use to draw your characters?
Well, I start off the old-fashioned way, by hand. I use Photoshop is what I draw in mostly, and then illustrate it. And some of these ones, I'll take it into AI at the end. So like Derek, I did him 100%, and then I threw it into the AI just to give it a little bit extra 5% snazziness. Sometimes it helps sell the metal more. Rendering metal is just so tough. Yeah. Sometimes that's in that case of Derek, that's how that worked, right?
So when you put it into your AI adjustment, do you like type in the prompts of make the metal?
No. Well, you can. So it depends on which tool you use, because there's lots of different tools. But I use mostly Stable Diffusion. Anyone who's familiar with that. So Stable Diffusion, I can have it installed locally on my workstation. And then there's a feature called image to image. So you input an image, you can put your prompts or whatever else, and then you run it through a checkpoint engine and maybe add some LoRa's if you want. And then you can get different results. So, I never run it through, like Derek's case, it's probably 25% is what the denoise setting would be. See, if I'm getting really technical here, just tell me. But yeah, so I ran that through a couple times, and then you sort of take what you like, don't like, layer it up, or and composite that into something. And then I might run it through again to refine it. It really depends. Each character, some characters I don't do it at all. Some characters I do it quite a bit. Right. I'm having fun and I'm playing around with it.
Well, it comes through. I mean, the passion of what you're doing definitely comes through. Oh, Toad.
Yes. So remember we were talking about what is a hobgoblin?
Yeah.
What do they look like? What are they? And how are they different from goblins? And this is how I always imagined Viewmaster Toad in my mind. So it was fun to tackle him as a character. Like there's nothing heroic about him. He's just greasy, just greasy.
He looks great. And the thing is, like, I don't even know. There's a depiction of Jabba the Hutt's dad, Zorba, who actually has like a bearded braid and bearded hair, but he's a space slug.
Right.
So like, you can go anywhere you want with these weird creatures. I like him because Toad is interesting because he starts as this, he's like, I'm in charge of the area and I'm the one looking for the staff. And then he instantly goes to like coward mode whenever it suits him. But he does end up in charge of the Red Dragon Army for a while.
Yeah, that always kind of rubbed me weird. And in the games, he becomes the High Lord for the White Dragon Army, which makes more sense, I think, rank-wise. I just can't see him telling a Red Dragon what to do. So,
I mean, like,
but he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he goes through such a crazy character arc, even to the point of dying and being brought back as a bet from demons and stuff in the Lord Toad novel. It's crazy. But he ends up just being what is originally just a pathetic, disgusting, character that's just briefly on screen in order to propel the story into this very, like, if you're playing the modules, you can actually wheel and deal with him in order to get information about the dragon armies. I mean, you can work to his ego, which is much more powerful than his loyalty to anything, and just sort of use him. So I like this approach to him. There's this air of this dignified confidence that he will never exhibit, but if he's just standing for a portrait, I could see him owning,
Yeah, like his vanity, his arrogance, his hubris, like all these, just pick a negative association and you can throw it at Toad. And I was just trying to throw it off. And, a big inspiration. So, like, I think if you remember from earlier in our conversation, but a lot of these characters, I'm trying to put myself in the head space. This is 1984.
Yeah.
If Dragonlance was being filmed in 1984, who would be the actor? And the guy who comes to mind for this is Boss Hogg.
Yes, yes, I see it. I see it now.
I just, this is, little me, 6-year-old me. This is Boss Hogg. He was the epitome of villainy when I was a kid, and how bombastic of a character he was, and just how sleazy. And every week he came back with some weird scheme to rip off the good people of Hazard County. And I can see the same thing with Toad, right?
Yes. Oh, that's great. I didn't pick up on that. All right, Fisty. Good old Fisty with his red stone. I love the belt. I love the lining on the robe. This is very 80s looking to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm channeling the 80s big time, because that's when the Dragonlance, that's when it's from. Like, it's an 80s thing. You got to watch. Dragonlance should be right up there with Conan the Barbarian, Deathstalker, and Beastmaster. Like, right there. It's in that category. It's got to have that sort of gritty 80s vibe. And I was thinking of, I don't think there's very many illustrations of Fist and Dantalus besides the one with him and Rasslin in the Tower by Keith Parkinson. That one comes to mind. I wanted to do my take on it. And the Bloodstone, I don't know if anyone's ever illustrated the Bloodstone amulet that he uses. And make him creepy, just, he's got, you can't really tell him this, but I gave him 2 different eye colors and no eyebrows. And this is the first time I've ever actually tried to illustrate someone with no eyebrows. It's really hard. People look so weird without eyebrows. And it's such a defining feature on people. But I was trying to think of ways we can make him look just so weird and unnatural.
Yeah.
And
because he was, I mean, even before he became a lich, I mean, he was very much like ancient for his time. He just lived forever. He was the only wizard that remained in the King Priest's group. And even then he was a black robe in the King Priest entourage. So it was just amazing of a character. Gold Moon has a question here. She's asking, what's your favorite character, or is there a character that's always resonated with you?
I don't know if I have a favorite character. Every book I read, I'm like, I like this character more than the other. Like, I was just reading Kaz the Minotaur, and I really like Delbin, like Kender. I just really liked him. The whole book, I'm cheering for Delbin. Yep. I don't know. I mean, the main heroes, when I was playing the modules back in the day, when I was into it, Gilthness was my favorite guy. I like fighter mages. He's an elf. He was cool. I really like that character. They all kind of have a special place in my heart. And I kind of break the characters up into like villains, NPCs, heroes. And I think I have I honestly, I love them all. They're really great. So no, I don't have a favorite, but some I like more than others.
Yeah.
I guess I hope that answers your question, Goldman.
Well, let us know in chat what your guys' favorite characters are. That'll be interesting. Or ones that inspire you, Maybe it's not your favorite character, but something they did inspired you. Like, for me, Karaman helping that guy in the Fifth Age story who had lost his arm, that felt like it was like super tight and clenched. And the whole story was about Karaman helping him unclench and stop the pain and stop abusing alcohol and, just becoming a better human being. That really resonated with me. And I always liked Karaman. I never really connected with him until that story. So is there anything like that for any of you out there? Let us know. This face, I know this face, and I can't place it. It's the 80s. This is going to drive me insane.
Well, just go back to the Dukes of Hazzard.
Right. So this is like
people have already guessed these on. Yeah. It's kind of Uncle Jesse from the Dukes of Hazzard. Jesse. Think of that. I forget his name now off the top of my head. The actor. Yeah. People when I post these pictures on Twitter. Sometimes guys, it's kind of fun. They're trying to guess which actor did I choose to base the likeness off of. But I think of Uncle Jesse as Fizban. That's who came to mind. So
that's cool.
Go and rewatch old episodes of the Dukes, and then you'll see what's going on there.
I'm going to need everyone to leave so I can spend some time with Goldmoon. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I am doing a version with pants. So hold on. I know there's a debate about pants and no pants,
Right,
and
right.
I did start giving her some buckskin pants, but I haven't gotten there yet. And I'm a bit of a purist, because
Mm.
on the very first module, on the very first cover, Clyde Caldwell painted her without pants. So, kind of fits. No pants for Goldmoon, but
Yeah. Yeah, it works.
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. When you post images online, you check I'm sure you do too. You check your impressions and the stats and whatever. And posting Dragonlance female characters always gets more views. People really like these characters, and
Yeah,
especially the pretty girls. Everyone likes a pretty girl. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even girls like pretty
mhm.
girls. I mean, it's
Oh yeah, she's
everyone does.
beautiful. She's
Yeah,
beautiful, and
nice. Gunther. Now, I've
mhm,
always had this image in my mind of Gunther sitting on the back of that golden dragon from that one painting. But other than that, I don't
mhm,
ever think I've ever seen like an actual picture of him. He was in like a comic back in the day and stuff,
mhm,
but I really
mhm,
like this because you're getting the surcoat, that tabard or whatever it's called that drapes over the
mhm,
armor. That's very traditional for our own history, and I like that aspect of it because
mhm,
it makes the and you did the same thing, not with the tabard or whatever it's called, the surcoat, but with the armor you did with Derek Crownguard and how it looked like period
mhm,
specific. And I like
mhm,
that about Solamnic Knights because I don't imagine a regular dude wearing regular piecemeal armor would be wearing like your traditional full plate armor, but I love
mhm.
seeing knights wearing it.
Well, so he is he's going to be the Grand Master
Yeah.
of the whole Order of Solemn Knights. Like basically, he's the president of the nation. He is the most important person, or he will become the most important person in the country. And he's royalty
Mm-hmm.
basically. And knights, like historically, from any culture, the top of the hierarchy in the warrior's status or in the political status, they all have ornate clothing. They all have that, and that's one thing Dragonlance hasn't really done a lot is flesh out the culture of
Mm-hmm.
these people. Like every time you see a Islamic knight, he's just in a plate mail suit with some roses embossed onto it. You don't see, the heraldry. And
Yeah.
heraldry is incredibly important. Like, how are you going to tell guys apart on the battlefield?
Yep.
There'll be battle flags. There's all this stuff, and I really learned about this stuff. I did some illustration for Medieval Warfare magazine
Oh wow.
back in the day, and I had to do an illustration of King Richard at the Battle of Arsuf during the First Crusade. I know nothing about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm having to paint all these characters. So I do a line of horsemen. It's a horse charge illustration, so a cavalry charge, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is documented from that period down to the color of Richard's horse, how
Wow.
many lions were on his banner, who was riding next to him, and what order he was. So, the historian. So I would draw the scene, and then the editors, the art directors, be like, okay, well, historically, Richard was on a brown horse, not a white horse. Okay, and then his helmet has this sort of fin on top of it, and it goes this way, like a half moon above his
Wow.
head, almost like a Roman centurion,
Yeah.
and it had a lion rampant on it, and he had three lions on his banner, I think. Anyways, the
Wow.
point is, I learned a lot about the heraldry and
Mm-hmm.
how we think of now militarily, all of our armies look the same. All our soldiers dress the same, pretty much, unless they're on parade.
Yeah.
You see them in basically the same uniform with a few badges to show what rank and which unit they're part of, right? But it's different.
Mm-hmm.
In olden days, they would wear the different colors. They would have all these symbols so they could stand out. So you knew, okay, commander's over there. I got to go get my orders. Like
Yeah.
that's how it worked, and that's not something that's really incorporated often into fantasy. And I like that realism. I think
Mm-hmm.
it gives that extra layer. And Gunthar, I mean, he's an awesome character, and
Yeah.
I wanted to give him a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? I want him to look a little more regal, a little more
Mm-hmm.
important. He's got gold trim. He's got all the symbols of the knightly orders. He's got the crown, the rose, the swords. They're all there, and he's got a big gold kingfisher on top of his helmet.
That's
So
awesome.
just like an extra thing, so he'll stand out on the
Yeah.
battlefield.
Just pisses Derek off because he could never get that
Well,
extra.
Derek, It's funny. I love that everyone hates Derek so much, but since I've been spending so much time drawing him and thinking about him, he's actually grown on me quite a bit.
Oh, really?
And I'll probably get hate for this, but I don't think of him. I don't think he was always a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think his story arc. I think there's a story to be told of him, and you know, that's something. We'll put a pin in that. You know, I'd like to talk about that later, maybe. But
Nice.
I like Derek, and I like there's our heroes are only as good as their villains, and when a hero becomes a villain, that's also quite interesting. And he's like
Right.
the main sort of anti-hero throughout the second book in the Chronicles. So, and he, you know, it's great. We need to have villains. He's cool, but I like to think I think there's room to tell more of his story
Mm-hmm.
in the whole Dragonlance canon.
Yeah. I know the only part I know about extrapolating on the character is there's a short story that was in one of the anthologies, and he was a dick in that too. So it was just like
Yeah,
they took cues from the Winter
yeah.
Night, and they're like,
Mhm.
let's just build on this. So I would
Well,
love
you
to
know,
hear how he can be understood or endeared through personal
uh
experience. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think it just adds more depth, and also, um, like I don't like thinking of any of the Knights of Solamnia of being bad guys. Like
Yeah.
he was a Knight of the Rose.
Yeah.
He was, you know, in line to be number two. To like he could have been the high or the Grand Master, but you know, we have a character like Renard in the Legend of Huma, and he was a corrupted knight,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting character too that I might get to one of these days. But now we're on to Jasla. No one's ever done her yet,
Nope.
so you know, I don't even know if anyone knows who she is, but she's Burm's sister, and I wanted to see her. She's not in the books very much, but I think her role is key. It's vital. Like
Yeah.
she's a main character in what she accomplished, and
She's
I kind of
literally
wanted to give her
holding
the.
off Takhisis. I
I
mean,
know, I know,
her soul, and I like
and
how you have that sort of glow around it.
well, I was channeling my 1983 self with the Return of the Jedi. If you remember at
Nice.
the
Yep.
end when
Yep.
the Force ghosts show up and they have that blue glow, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be perfectly. She's a Force ghost
I dig
of
it.
Jassa. I like that.
I think that's a lot of fun. And yeah, there's no ever any real reference to her at all. She was just like an accidental death that ended up being this barrier to Takhisis. And her brother ended up being the focal point of everything, even though she's literally the cork in in the dam, you know, stopping Takhisis. I think it's interesting. Wow. First of all, love the actor. But no, that looks great.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
just great. Like I love the robes, the way
yeah.
you have the fabric. It looks real. It's so great. Oh man.
Well, I want to. So as I was reading through the legends, I'm like, I want to. What about these other characters? And the three orders, like the heads of the three magical orders.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone's really done any illustrations of them, and I just wanted to show them. And he's the head of the order, so he can't just be in a regular frock kind of robe. That most of the Dragonlance illustrations of wizards, they're basically in monks' costumes, more or
Right.
less, with a hood, right? And I'm like, no, this guy's important. I mean, he becomes the head of the order after Parsalian, right? So I wanted to show him, and yeah, who better than Gene Hackman
Yeah.
to play?
No, it looks great. I mean, even the collar is just. I mean, you really outdid yourself, and I love the cane because he did wound his leg in his test of high sorcery. Such a great little detail. No, those eyes are brilliant too. All right, someone said they wanted to see Kitiara. Sake-san, you're welcome. She looks great.
Yeah, I just did a post today of her completed character sheet, and yeah, so far there's been lots of fun chatter and people talking about her, and you know, it's great. She's such a great character, and I think I learn more about her every time I read her. How about you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like her as a character. I know everyone's like, "Oh, she was evil and she enslaved," but like I love that she's a woman in a time I'm saying like Dragonlance time as well, in a time when women were not respected. They were not given authority over anyone. I mean, even Lorana, the princess, her own people, her own dad was trying to get her to shut up, sit down, and be quiet. So
Mhm.
for Kitiara to go out there with all of the guys and use their own power against them through sex, I think she
Mhm.
is an incredibly powerful character. And I really love that she is like one of the cornerstone characters. It's her, Lorana, and Tanis, as far as that duality of good versus evil and that balance between it. Um, for all of Dragonlance Saga, I think she's brilliant. I think she's great.
So I have a thought. I'm curious what you think of this, but some ways she strikes me as an avatar of the Queen of Darkness in a way. Like she is,
Oh, I could see
whereas
that.
Fizban is Paladine's avatar on Earth, or Krynn. Perhaps Katara is in a way. Like you could see how Takhisis um, would
Favor
favor
her.
her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And also Kitiara could also, you know, maybe one of the rewards for her service is beauty and power and all these things, right? Like she's got everything. She's got everything but love.
Hmm.
But she kind of wants it, but doesn't recognize she wants it with Tanis, and that sort of makes her conflict and her character interesting. But I
Hmm.
think about the deal she made with the Dark Queen and how she wasn't evil when Tanis first met her, but then she became evil during that 5 years. So what did she do? Did she sold her soul, or what is that relationship with Takhisis? Like that's never really expanded on. But I liked in my head. I think she made some kind of a deal, and that's where that's
I think
why
that's
she's such a
interesting. Yeah.
vixen. It's a different take on things. I don't know if anyone's talked about that before, but the
I
gods
haven't. Yeah.
play roles in the the books. Like they
Hmm.
they they play different roles. I was thinking about Fizban the other day, and how he tunes out. Like he gets all befuddled, and then he just tunes out for a while, and then he's just bumbling to himself or sleeping, right? And I wonder if that's like the Paladine putting him on hold because he's got to deal with something else. Like
Right.
as a god, he can't be present all the time there, right? So he's like, okay, they're not going to need me for about 5 hours. I'm going to put pause on him, and I'm going to go deal with something else. And then,
Hmm.
when the time's up, he repossesses the avatar of Fizban and does whatever needs to be done. Like I'm just, how does a god divide his consciousness around to
Right.
do all these things, right? I think
That's
that's kind of a
interesting.
neat aspect too, right? Like how the gods of Krynn interact with characters. And that's one thing I really liked about reading the Legend of Huma book, is because that's a time when the gods were part of the world. And
Hmm.
that, in our thing, in the post Cataclysm Dragonlance novels, the gods are new. So they're rare. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know what their role is or how they interact with the people and society. And I think that's really interesting. Like that kind of like I think that's one thing about Dungeons and Dragons is kind of it's a hot button topic. Like some people feel strongly about it than others, but I think it's an interesting feature to the setting, and players can really get into it if they want to or not. But it adds a whole other layer to the onion
Hmm.
of the world and gives it lots of interesting texture. And as a storyteller, like the gods can jump in and make things happen. Or I've been thinking about some of the things that happen in the books, in the games, and how the gods play an active role, and things that might seem as a coincidence. They're like, oh, it seems like a coincidence, but it really could just be the gods helping things along, right?
Yep.
Like I mean, we're full of stories like that, and like the Clash of Titans. Remember that movie
Greek
with
myths for sure.
Greek myths? The gods are always playing around in people's lives,
Yep.
and that's something that we don't have a lot in contemporary storytelling anymore. And it's a real wild card, which can help storytellers add some spice, change things up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's like
Mm.
groups of American Christians that definitely take it to that. No, God definitely influences my life on a day to day basis, and
Mm.
then you have the more atheist viewpoint of, well, no, there's nothing. It's just us living.
Mm.
Part of
Yeah.
what I love about Dragonlance is that the gods are literal myth. They're 350 years ago, supposedly, if they ever existed. Like
Mm.
generations of humans have lived and died, and there's been no
Except to the
gods.
elves.
Right.
The elves still remember them in living memory, so that's interesting too.
But they're usually cordoned off in their little corners
Yeah.
in their forest, so they're not really that pervasive view of things. And even the elves were stunned when Goldmoon came walking in and had that holy medallion, because like, oh, the audacity of a human saying that God was coming. That we're the
Mhm,
favorite of
mhm,
the gods. So I love that idea that these myths who are having an active war, they can't just sit on the sidelines. Like Takesis is literally
mhm,
leading her armies, and Fizban is literally leading the heroes of the lance. I mean, they are actively
mhm,
involved in this thing, and I really
mhm,
like that aspect of it. Whenever I play games, I have, if you're a religious character like a cleric or a druid or something like that, the gods play a huge role in your life, and you should be reflecting
mhm,
that in your choices and the outcomes of your choices,
mhm,
because
mhm.
gods are not going to reward you with power if you go against them. Why would they?
Well, I was reading. You're right. Why would they? When I was reading Legend of Huma, they have parts because Kaz worships his culture worships the god Sargonis,
Yep.
who's bad, who's one of the evil gods, right?
Yep.
But he
Consort of
keeps
Jesus.
invoking his name all the time throughout the book, and they keep saying, "Stop saying his name. You're gonna call his attention." And I like that's kind of it's like he's gonna hear you if you keep saying his name. And I thought, okay,
Mhm.
that's cool. That adds an interesting Big Brother story element or different thing. Like as a writer, I would imagine people who wrote Dragonlance had a lot of fun because
Oh,
it's
for
such a cool
sure.
sandbox.
Yeah. This is great for Ladonna. Oh my gosh. First of all, like Ladonna is
Yes.
always presented as this uh, incredibly beautiful older woman who has poise and grace, and this evokes that. This is great.
Mhm. It's interesting how she's described that way, Poison Grace, but also the way she talks. She I found her to be kind of really adversarial the whole like
Oh yeah.
she's an
I mean,
interesting
she's
character.
Black-robed.
I liked her. Yeah, yeah, but still wanting to help, which
Mhm.
again is interesting. And I think I like her as a character and her past relationship with Parsalian. Again, they're very rich characters for the little screen time they get in the books. They're rich characters, and I wanted to show something. I wanted to show more that the wizards aren't just monk characters who live in their tower in the middle of the forest. They're actually almost like royalty. They're powerful. They're important. They have their own politics, and they play an active role in Krynn and
Mhm.
what happens in Krynn.
They're feared too. Chris has a
Yeah, yeah.
question. Do you see? I'm trying to find it. I just remember looking. Oh, here it is. Um, how do you view Kender? Similar to hobbits or more like teenagers? Are there any visuals of Taz or other Kender? Yeah, we just showed Cronin
Well, if
Thistlenot.
you go back to Kron,
Mhm.
Thistlenot, I think yeah. So he's kind of a. I wanted to do him because he's one of the heroes of the Lance from the games, not from the books, right?
Mhm.
And he's a fighter thief, and he's described with like a puckish sense of humor quite a bit in the, the material. But I like to think of Tasselhoff as an extreme Kender. Like he's the most Kender you could possibly be.
Right.
Because if you had a society of Tasselhoffs, they wouldn't even be able to function at all. And they clearly have a society in the book, like they have their own nation, they have their own towns and villages. They're able to grow food and raise families, right? And Tasselhoff can't even keep. He's got the memory of a goldfish, like he can't remember what he did 5 minutes ago, right? And so Tasselhoff, I think, is a bit of an outlier. I try to think of Kender. I think there's a lot of room to grow Kender, so I don't think of them as hobbits because I don't think they're similar to hobbits really, except in size.
Yeah.
I think of them as like a really complicated, dynamic tribe, sort of tribal society, and I can't get my head around how. Like, I think in one of the books, Tasloff talks about a family heirloom that's just been in the house for more than 3 weeks, like,
Hmm.
and how they have communal property and they don't, like how does anything get done? Like if
Right.
he talks about his parent, his uncle Trapspringer and his parents taking him on a trip to Calaman, I think, and then they just sneak in as they go on. They're tourists with their children, so I mean they have a dynamic, normal society, functioning society, and Tass doesn't seem like he's dynamic, normal, or functioning at all. And like I've never really seen him interacting with other Kender. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there any examples of that you can really think of from the older material? So Yeah, I guess I think there's a lot of room to grow with Kender, and I like doing different characters. That way, we can break some ground. Maybe we can establish something about who they are and what they do, and how interesting they can be. Because they're not just plot devices. I don't think
Yeah. Well,
they're
I
used
mean,
as plot devices.
the way they're used is very much like that. I mean, especially with between Kender, Gully Dwarves, and Gnomes, those three specific races or subrace are they're used as caricatures of themselves almost in almost every
Mm-hmm.
single way. And when an author goes too far out of bounds of what we've been presented with as the archetype of a Kender Gully Dwarf or Gnome, we sort of shake our fists and cry foul. But then if
Mm-hmm.
they don't go far enough to create an actual personality and character to the character, then we say you're not doing your job. So we're sort of like killing creativity by not letting people
Mm-hmm.
explore what these species might actually be like on an individual basis outside of, say, Tasselhoff. So I
Yeah,
think it is interesting to, and there's tons of room to explore for sure.
yeah. I'd like to know what it'd be like to sit down and have a family dinner with the Kender.
Oh my
You know,
gosh,
like can you imagine that? Like,
it'd
but
be
think about it.
wild.
It's a family dinner, right? Like someone would cook the meal, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
did that? And then they bring it out, they sit down, and like just that dynamic tells you a lot about their society and how things are. And they do kind of flesh that out with the dwarves a bit in the other books. Like you do get an idea what's going on with dwarves, but
Yeah,
no, Kender, there's a lot of room we could do that, go with, and I think that's the best part about designing these characters. So here we are
absolutely.
in Lauren Soth.
Oh, he's awesome.
He
Awesome.
I really wanted to do Soth, but he was hard. He's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's hard to. He's such a. He's been illustrated a lot, especially lately. Like he's very popular villain. He's so powerful, but and he's just a really cool, interesting character. I think it was Tracy Hickman had, or Margaret Weiss,
Yep.
one of them had said he was tough because he just steals the scene. Every
Yeah.
scene he's in, he steals it. So he's tough to write,
Mm-hmm.
and he's tough to incorporate into the book. So I felt a lot of pressure trying to even depict him. But yeah, this is my stab at it.
It's cool. I note that you don't have any bones or anything underneath the linkage between, almost
Hmm.
like the
Hmm.
force of the curse is holding him together in the armor
Hmm.
rather than
Well,
actual
when I read
bones.
the yeah, well, I don't know if anyone else interpreted it this way, but when I read the books, the way I interpreted it is like he's transparent. He can sort of fade in and fade out, and he was. They described him as just a floating suit of armor with eyes. Like you don't see anything else within the suit except for the eyes. So it makes sense that all of the leather and fabric and flesh and bone would be gone, would have burned
Yeah.
away, and we would just have this suit of armor. And I think that's more visually interesting because the gaps, like this is like if I saw a floating suit of armor with this evil voice and glowing eyes, I'd be terrified.
Yeah.
And it makes it more interesting. And I mean, he doesn't need a sword, but he can conjure one up if he wants to. Like he is so overpowered. It's pretty intense.
Hmm. Yeah, this makes me want to get to the video pieces that you had put together.
Oh, okay.
Just talking about it just makes me want to see a little bit
Mhm.
of life or unlife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Well, we
so
can
cool.
scroll ahead to them or
He's one of
keep
my
going.
favorite. Yeah, we're oh my gosh, we're almost an hour already.
Yeah, we've
We
been
are
chatting
cruising. All right,
quick.
let's do a little bit of the video stuff. So,
Sure.
can you talk about how the intention behind this and how you generated them and stuff like that while I get them playing?
Well, so I've been learning the AI tools. I've had to learn them for my job, and they're it's amazing what they can do and what you can do with them. So, I can feed my image, my illustration into it, and then I can type some prompts and crank out some really interesting illustrations to describe the character. And it's really fun as an artist. Like I geek out seeing my characters come to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun to see these people come to life. Like I drew them this way and now they're moving. Now they're doing something. Like
Oh
this,
my
I imagine
gosh.
Kitty R, she finds out Tanis left her. They're in Flotsam or whatever, and then
Yeah.
oh, he left me. And I try to think of that, like here he's saying die. Like this is when he's telling Kitty Chrysania to die.
Yes.
And Rasslin turning into the Black Robe. Maybe that this is in
Ah,
um, yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. Oh, that's so great.
Seston, I love Seston. He's such a fun character,
Oh,
and
he's
I thought
wonderful.
yeah,
I also love
you know it.
how Tasselhoff wants to save him. Like he empathizes with him.
You know, Gully Dwarves they're fun characters. They're interesting characters. They're kind of pitiful characters, comedic characters. There's so much about them that you can use. And one thing with the AI, it's amazing how powerful these tools are now,
Yeah.
and everyone has access to them. And it's a lot of fun. I know some people are bored of seeing art animated, but for me, an older guy, you know, I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Well,
And
first of all, it's an entirely different thing if you're taking like an Elmore painting and you're adding animation to that. It's a whole different thing if it's your creation that you are putting life into, especially as someone like you who've had this brilliant career, and you know, you still a professional in the industry who never grew up with any of this. It was all static, it was all traditional, and now you have this whole new tool set at your disposal. Yeah, play with it. Why not?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fun, and like I studied traditional animation. I've done the hours and hours cell
Mhm.
shading. I remember doing in university. I did a project where we were filming a short film, and we had to do a 30-second short for our final. And I made mine 2 minutes long. And every single frame, we had a foot pedal, like a wah wah pedal for a guitar, and that was how we would record the frame. So we would,
Mhm.
you know, frame and you know I did the old school animation, and as we were filming then we did a Foley soundtrack. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but
Mhm.
Foley is those artists who would they would you know make the sound effects
Yep.
in time with the animation. So I got these black, you know, these pencil drawing animations, and then me and a buddy are sitting there scrunching saran wrap to make the sound of grass, and you know, old school animation stuff. Like
Awesome.
we did all of that. Yeah, and to be able to bypass that and go straight to the the finished piece, it's so cool. For me, it's so cool. It's really
Mhm.
interesting, and it's a lot of
Nice.
fun.
I think it's great. And it all looks so good, so much fun. Oh, Odic. Oh, that's funny.
Has anyone ever done Odic before? In anything else? Have you seen it with anything else?
I've seen it, of course, the animated film. I think I've seen it with comics, but not like
Okay.
the traditional pieces at all.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
I like the character. I like to imagine he took an arrow to the knee and he had to retire, and that's when he go into the last home.
He's awesome. Parsalian. Wow. This is a nice take on him. Again, I love the
Yeah,
clothing and the outfit.
yeah. I wanted to show him. He wouldn't wear pure white, you
Right.
know. But I found this really interesting. See how his cuffs are sort of. He's got that wrap on his cuffs.
Mm.
I found some reference for historical clothing where lab techs or people, doctors or medical people in Victorian times, they would wear these cuffs to keep their sleeves protected or whatever. And
Right.
I thought, well, that'd be kind of neat to add that to him to give it. He just came out of the lab because he really strikes me as a working wizard. He's
Yep.
not sitting around being a politician. He's in his lab doing stuff and making things happen. So I kind of want to show him more as a, you know, a functional wizard, not just
Mm.
this all-powerful head of the order.
Well, I think it's great. And I think we should leave people wanting more because there's actually a lot more imagery that we could show.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to show
Mm-hmm.
some people some of the VTT stuff that you've put together.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because if you're running a game, I'm like this is stuff that you could use even in D&D Beyond. If you're running a VTT like Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or something like that, you could use these VTT tokens for the campaign that you're running. And even if you're not going to be using them with the Heroes of the Lance that they're depicting, you know, if you just use them for your own, you could even do that. So where could people find these to pick them up?
Well, on the so if you Adam has a link and it goes
Mhm.
to my link tree, and so I have a Gumroad store that has VTT. So the first pack is free. This one, the starter pack, it's free, and it's got the Being Heroes of the Lance and a couple villain, Fizzband, everything you need. If you're doing the old school Dragonlance campaign, Dragons of Despair, if you want to start a campaign, all these tokens would be useful for that. You know, you can start off. You've got the characters from the setting, even Otik. And then I have the extended pack, which has all the heroes for all the modules that all the playable hero characters. And I'm working on other packs too. So we got items, we've got monsters, we've got villains. I'm slowly putting together different VTT packs that people could buy and incorporate into their games.
That's very cool. Or just use it as an avatar for your social network.
Sure,
Persona.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything, if you're running a campaign and you want to, something you want to see, or let me know and I can put it together.
Well, the link to his link tree is in the description of the video you're watching right now. So I would highly recommend you check it out. There's a lot of really great links to his social media, of course, but also to this individual pack that you can pick up. So definitely check it out. Mike, you're an incredible talent. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your work with us. It is always such a pleasure.
Oh, it was great to be here. Thanks for having me. And anytime, I'd love to talk some more. I think we just scratched the surface on all the different characters. So, and we talked probably half the time about other stuff before we even got into them. So yeah, anytime, let me know, and I'd love to jump in.
All right. Well, the door is always open for you. I love having you on. I love seeing your work, and I love our back and forth just talking Dragonlance, because we could do it for hours as we have already in the past and today. So for those of you watching, what do you think of the artwork? Do you have a favorite piece that we had showcased today? Let us know in the comments. And of course, reach out to Mike on social media and let him know what you think. Follow his page and his sites and stuff, and make sure that you tune in next time so that we can all chat about Dragonlance together again. That is all the time we have for the Hangout today. I would like to thank creator patron Aaron Hardy, developer patron Chris Androu, and remind you that this channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga. Thank you so very much for joining in that celebration. So for Mike and myself, my name's Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slán Javar.